Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined as always by my co-host, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, the Cats have opened SEC play. Obviously, not how we wanted. Go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, lose to the Crimson Tide and Nate Oates, 89-74. And honestly, it was a game that you and I both kind of predicted, one that neither one of us saw going into Cats fashion, but even with all that said, I think we can still say this was maybe not an embarrassing performance, but one that definitely instills no confidence in this group.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Cam. I thought it was a pretty embarrassing performance. Really
It is, but I'm to the point.
throughout. I'll use the word embarrassing. Let's just dive into it, I guess. There's a lot of factors. One, you were once again never really competitive in a major game. You had a little run at some point there, midway through the second half where we cut it to 10, I think, and you're kind of battling, and every time you got it to 10 or even under, I think at one point we got it down to 9, but it was just like an Alabama 3 instantly. I think it's embarrassing just from the standpoint of like the lineups that were put in the game, the selfishness at time from certain guys, and just the inability to defend the three-pointer that Alabama's going to come in and want to shoot. We talked about how good all 5 to 7 guys that they were going to play for the majority of this game, how they're all shooting 30+%, some guys in the 40s. And we watched our guards go under every single screen throughout the entire game and just give up open look after open look. And there was a moment where we were down 20 plus, and it honestly could have been more. Bama at times missed a couple open ones. So yeah, I use the word embarrassing, and I think Saturday's performance was pretty damn embarrassing.
I'm there with you. Honestly, it's just I'm trying to find different ways in which to say something about this team that I haven't said before. And you almost get to the point where when you come in expecting something like this is just kind of what it is. Yep. The spread before going into this game, I want to say it was 7.5. Alabama was favored. It was something along those lines. And, I texted my brother right before the game. I'm like, hey, listen, at some point in this first half, they're going to go down by 12 to 13 points, and that spread is going to jump up. It's going to go up to like 17.5, 19.5, and then that's when you should put money on the Cats. And man, if the game didn't fully portray just like that, simplest question for you here. What do we have to do to not jump out to an early 15-point deficit? Because even in this game, you started off the game 5-0. You would think, okay, maybe this isn't the game we're going to get in a big hole early, and yet somehow we still find a way to be down an extraordinary amount when you go into halftime knowing we don't have the offense and we don't have the shooters to be able to come and claw our way back into these games like we did sometimes last year.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like last year, I can't really explain the slow starts, right? We talked about it at length last year. Why does this team come out and start so slow? And I never really felt like we had an answer. This year, I feel like it's pretty clear that starting 5 you're playing is not a good lineup. There should never be a lineup where Denzel, Everdeen, and Colin Chandler are on the floor together, I don't think, at this point. And that's crazy. As high as we were on Colin, a little over a month and a half ago, so like you got 2 guys that I think are approaching borderline unplayable in both of them. Like neither one of them give you a whole lot. Colin looks terrified out there to even be on the floor. He's not doing the stuff that, we saw him do where he was really efficient at the beginning of the year or even at times last year. Like he's not trying to beat his man off the dribble. He's shooting the ball with zero confidence. He's not being a good defender. He's going under every screen. And then the same thing for Denzel, except for some reason he's got all the confidence in the world. I text you guys what we were down. We might have been down 9, and then Bama hits a 3 to make it 12, and they throw the ball into Denzel. He brings it right up the floor and pulls a 3 25 seconds into the shot clock. Like, it was absolutely mind-boggling. So, like, this year, I think it's a lot with the lineups. we talked after St. John's how good that 5 that you played in the second half for most of that, half was, and then included Cam Williams. Cam Williams barely plays in the first half of this game after making 8 threes. I think not playing Jalen Lowe, you see just how bad this team is offensively without him. So this year, I feel like it's 100% on the lineups. I don't understand what we're doing. Last year, it might have been to an extent. We would get to a good point in the game, and then we'd make the switches and bring in 4 guys off the bench, and all the momentum we built was just gone. But like this year, you're not finding a decent lineup, I don't think, at any point throughout the first half in any of these games.
Yeah, and that lineup that you mentioned that we look at with obviously Jalen, Ortega, Mo, Cam, and JQ that we looked at during the St. John's game, we're like, oh man, this lineup can actually do something. This is a lineup that has some potential. It's probably your best offensive lineup and your best defensive lineup as well. Like, I don't see the argument for.
I think it's overall just your best lineup, every aspect.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And that whole lineup sees 1 minute together in this game.
And excuse me.
I don't understand what that is. Like, you're down 21 going into the second half. Like, at some point, what are you doing? Like, I really don't. It seems like there's never any. I don't know. There's no motivation on the sidelines to change something, to try something. Or, hell, dude, if you see something's working, run it until the wheels fall off. Right now, nothing's working. He mentioned after the game, like, oh, I played Ortega too many minutes. No, dude, these guys need to play that amount of minutes for this team to be good. And a part of that's going to have to be these guys are going to have to be better conditioned if they can't play this amount of minutes because they're going to need to. I get last year it worked to a certain extent with playing Amari a certain amount of minutes. But what did we beat the table with all year last year? We wanted Amari to play more. We wanted these guys to play more and more. In my opinion, like, there's no reason, and we're getting to the point now where I think you mentioned our 2 shooting guards being unplayable. I don't see a world in which either one of those guys gets 20 minutes, let alone both of them. I really don't understand what either are bringing. If you would have told me in the offseason, what does Colin Chandler bring you, I would have said athleticism and some good defense. He was the worst defender on the court in this Alabama game. I'm not sure what was going on. I don't know what was communicated pregame, but you would have thought the biggest thing that we were worried about with this Alabama team was the drives. And I'm not I get that's a part of their game, especially Phylon. And guess what? You held him in check the first half. He scored 2 points. Guess what? You're still down 21. Like, you have to understand that great coaches like Nate Oates are going to see you're trying to take away one of their best assets, and they're going to pivot and go somewhere else. And it seems like right now, Mark Pope is just getting outcoached in every aspect of the game.
Well, and like the other part, I'm not going to listen to the fact that these guys can't play 25 to 30 minutes every 2 nights a week, pretty much, right? And especially after having a week and a half off, like that's not a valid
excuse for any of this.
Every other team in the country does it, right? These guys are anywhere from 20 to 23 years old. They got the conditioning to do it, and if these guys have aspirations to play in the NBA, you don't think like that's something they're going to have to work on to play in the NBA where they're playing back-to-backs and you're playing 35 to 40 minutes if you're an NBA star. Like, all these guys have that aspiration to do, and you're telling me that 2 times a week they can't go out there and give you 25, 30 minutes. It's an absurd take. And yeah, there might be a world where, like, analytically it tells you a guy, once he hits 30 minutes or an X amount of minutes in a row, that some of his efficiency falls off. I'm taking a tired Ortega Owe over Colin Chandler and Denzel Aberdeen right now. Yeah, right? And we said the same thing.
Is the trade-off that you have between a tired Ortega versus a fresh Colin Chandler. Like, at some point you have to value those trade-offs as well. Like, I get his efficiency numbers might not be as good from minute 30 to 36 as it is from minute 1 to minute 30. But at the same time, like, dude, it doesn't matter if the substitutions coming off the bench can't play.
Correct. And, like, same thing, last year, I could hear a world where, like, Amari probably couldn't, be as efficient at 20 minutes. But when you look at Brandon Garrison coming in and giving you nothing, like I rather have a lesser efficient Amari Williams. And again, you don't have like a Kobe Brea coming being the first guard off the bench to like give these guys a breather. I think your best five, which we've seen, and for some reason that lineup only played 1 minute together, that I truly do not understand in what world, after you saw how well they played in this thing. I mean, that lineup dropped 53 in the second half against St. John's. And in a game where you're probably going to have to score the basketball, you don't roll them out there. And you mentioned it, and I agree. Like, that's also, I still think, your best defensive lineup. Cam Williams has length. He's able to switch. Like, this was the perfect game for him. And you know what? If you get beat by someone driving to the basket, you got Jaden Quaintance down there to, help protect the rim. You don't need, a guard coming in and trying to help out. I watched that time and time again. Colin Chandler especially, someone would get slightly beat and you have a rim protector down there to help, and like there's no trust, and it just leads to an open three because you're trying to help a man that you don't need to help out on. It's extremely frustrating. Unfortunately, like, it's weird because, like, I don't know, like, this team has an answer to be, like, really good, but, like, I do think there's an answer for this team to be better, and it's just, for some reason, we're not constantly going with it, or maybe we try it in the second half as we're down, 17 points with 12 minutes to go, and we're trying to claw back.
Yeah, and then something I also think is super concerning is just, like, you hear Mo Diabate's comments today about how he didn't feel they were prepped for the game. How in the world do you have somebody who was in that system for 2 years, who was there practicing with that team every day for 2 years? You have what? We have 11 days to prepare for this game. How in the world were you not prepped for that? You faced this team 3 times last year. Like, theoretically, this should be the team that you are most, like, able to scout and take away film on. And it seemed like they had never seen Alabama play a game. Like, you would have come in thinking this was, like Matt Painter at Purdue said, yeah, we just didn't do any film study. Like, that's genuinely what it looked like in this game. The only thing that they did was think, Philon's our best player, let's take away his driving lanes. And that's the only thing they did somewhat efficiently. Jake, I do kind of there's so many things to talk about here that I'm almost like stressing myself out with trying to rein them all in my head, just tell you guys. But like, I'm looking at the minutes for this team. There's one guy who got over 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then you say that he shouldn't.
Yeah. And we're at the point now that, like, I can understand you not giving Jaden Quaintance 30 minutes yet. I can give you that one. That one makes sense. Outside of that, like, if Jalen gets hurt, he's going to get hurt. You playing him 40 minutes versus playing him 30 minutes versus playing him 20 minutes, him starting or not starting, is not going to change that. It's just going to be a luck of the draw, roll out the ball. If it happens, it's going to happen. You can't control injuries. And you can try and limit them all you want, but you're just playing scared and tentative at that point. And then for the guy who gets the second most minutes to be Denzel Aberdeen.
Yeah, that's got to stop.
I mean, he's genuinely, like, without being, like, super disrespectful, like, he's like Tony Snell. You'd see those box scores where he plays 30 minutes and he's just getting cardio out there. Like, dude had 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, committed 4 fouls, went 1 of 7 from the floor. And you mentioned he should shoot a pull-up 3 only 5 seconds into the shot clock. He's not playing good defense. He's not a good leader for what you'd expect. I don't understand what Denzel is bringing you. And this is something that we've said for, 3 weeks in a row now, that we're not sure what he's bringing. And I get that Colin Chandler's not stepping up either, so it's hard to give him those minutes. But Jasper Johnston got 6 minutes in this game. A game in which you need offense, you're giving up points left and right anyways. Why is Jasper Johnston not in there taking some shots? This is a guy who's a 5-star. Whether you think the 5-star was warranted or not, like, this is a guy who definitely has offensive prowess. He should be on the floor taking some of those 45 minutes combined from Denzel Aberdeen and Colin Chandler.
Yeah, and, like, the other thing, you mentioned Lowe and, like, being scared that he's going to get hurt. I mean, he still played almost 30 minutes in this game. But it's, like, it doesn't make sense where your mind goes to, like, I'm going to sit him for, the first 4 minutes of each half and then, like, a minute or two here and there. Like, you're essentially saying, like, I'm still going to play him, 15-ish minutes a half. Like, why does it have to be you're going to wait until you're down, 11-5 or whatever, or in some other games even, worse than that before you decide I'm going to bring him on the floor? Like, that for his rehab makes zero sense. There is not an explanation out there that will make sense for me for that. And Pope acknowledges
he thinks about that. I genuinely think Pope looks at these games and he's just sitting there and he's saying, "Oh, we started off 5-0. Let's see how much further I can push this. Oh, now it's let's say it's 11-4. Oh, we've got an 8-point lead this entire game. Maybe I don't have to play him."
Yeah,
I genuinely think that's what his thought process is, and I'm not going to put words into his mouth if I was guessing, because with him not starting and him waiting to see until the game really does head south to put him in, that's the only thing that makes somewhat logical sense of the thought process going on in Pope's head.
And if it is the case, I would say
it's dumb. It's
please,
so stupid.
please look at what has happened in the games where Jalen Lowe has either not played at all or you've held him out for long periods of time. This team, like, if you're so into analytics, I don't know. I don't look at analytics a ton, but there is not a world where I do not believe that the analytics tell you your best offense does not generate with Jalen Lowe on the floor. Like, it's impossible. You watched a team that scored 22 in the first half against St. Johnson, over doubled that in the second half of that same game by one player being on the floor. But you talk about, like, Denzel and, like, you still kind of maybe feel like you have to play him because of what Colin's given you. Like, this team's just got to roll with 7 guys. Like, it truly does. Like, you have to play the 5 we've talked about, maybe like 8 because, you probably have to play BG and Malachi still because JQ's not fully healthy. But, like, it should be your 5, and then your first guard off the bench. You can say, maybe it's Colin Chandler. Maybe he kind of develops back into the role he's comfortable in coming off the bench. Because, like, we've seen it. With Colin, I truly believe it's all just, like, mental. Like, he goes in these spurts and zones throughout a season where, like, he looks scared to play basketball. And then once it clicks, it'll click again. So maybe just bringing him off the bench will kind of give him some of that. He doesn't feel the pressure of being a starter or whatever it may be, or you tell him, like, I'm going to play you in these, 4 to 5 minute spurts here and there throughout the, a couple times a half. But, like, I told you, I don't know, we talked, this was, I guess, probably before the Indiana game, and you asked me, like, where I lean, like, Jasper Johnston or Denzel as, like, backup point guard, and I told you I was still rolling with Denzel. I didn't feel confident about it, but, like, now I've completely flipped on that. Like, to your point, you might as well just see what you got in Jasper Johnston, and, like, things are just ugly all around. You got, like you said, Mo Diabate talking about how they weren't prepared. Mo Diabate pretty much said, like, they're not playing the right lineups. You got JQ's dad going on Twitter talking about, lineups and performance. You got Jasper's uncle going on Twitter talking about the coach. Like, things are ugly, and until you establish, I think, like, and that's part of it too, of, like, the lineups, like, these guys are in practice every day. They know who their best 5 players are. When you're constantly, like, switching that out, like, I don't think it gives them any confidence or anything. You hear the people at the game say, like, Denzel's constantly arguing with people and Mo's constantly arguing with people. I think all that would work out if you just said, like, here's our best 5 guys and our 2 or 3 guys off the bench. We're just going to roll with them. The rest of you guys, you sit here and you be good teammates, and that's pretty much your role. Because Denzel still acts like he's the leader and best player on this team, and it's nowhere near that.
Yeah, and what was it? After the Gonzaga game, he said he has to be better as a leader, and he sees himself as a leader of this team, and we kind of laughed at it then. I mean, it's just, like, think of it from, like, a company's perspective. If you don't have defined roles, you have everybody chiming in, and you obviously just don't get to one ultimate goal, and you don't work cohesively as a team. Like, you have to have a hierarchy and a structure to a team and a roster. And a lot of that starts with Pope. I mean, do you feel confident in a singular thing that he says at any point in time right now? Like, you listen to, like, his coaches' shows, you listen to him post-game. Not only like, it doesn't even sound like he's searching for answers. It almost sounds like, I don't want to say he's given up on the season, but it's just like he wants to play it his way, and this team isn't fitting his style. It almost seems like he's being a little like hard headed
Yeah.
on cutting this rotation down and playing a style that necessarily doesn't fit him, having 7 guys play. Like, we've seen that work. That does work. Whether sometimes you want to get the lineups deeper, I understand that, and there's usually an argument to be made for that. But with this team, like, you can only go as deep as guys deserve the minutes. Right now, Denzel doesn't deserve the minutes. Colin Chandler doesn't deserve the minutes. There's a lot of guys that you look at on this roster that don't really deserve the minutes. I think you can look at it and say all 3 bigs deserve the minutes right now with JQ coming back. Like, even Brandon Garrison, for as much we've talked about him and how much he irritates us, I don't think he had a bad game in this one. I mean, he didn't play too much. Only played 9 minutes, but had 3 blocks in that time. Showed a little bit of physicality. It wasn't great, but I mean, I think that's not one of the first guys you're like pulling off the floor. Malachi Marino continues to still play pretty well. I mean, he's got his deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. Jaden Quayton's obviously, you think he's going to be your best player and for sure your best defender. I think those 3 guys have got to play. And then really you just need one of those guards have got to step up outside of Jalen and Ortega. Who is that? Jasper, Denzel, or Colin? Really, I think you just got to pick one of those guys, say, hey, this is your spot to lose. And until then, you're going to be playing 25 minutes. You're our first guy off the bench. I just have zero confidence Pope is going to pull any strings like that.
Yeah, and I don't get it because, like I said, it doesn't make sense because he is so analytically inclined. Like, there can't be positive analytics for Denzel Everdeen right now. Like, there can't.
I'd love to
like,
see him if they're
I don't know. Like, how do you find them? Like, where do they come from? I think in this game you legitimately had 2 guys play well, and it was, I thought Lowe was spectacular, and I thought Owe was really good, especially with what he did on the defensive side in the first half with Phylon. And to still score, 20 plus, I thought Owe was excellent.
The weird thing was, before we get off of that, Ortega was tremendous until we cut it to 10.
Yeah.
And then he was awful and the lead ballooned again, and then we were out of it. But yeah, he was great for a majority of the game. He had like a 4-minute spell there in the second half where he just reverted back to the Ortega from early in the season and had some defensive lapses and a turnover really quick and put us out of the game. But in all fairness, we wouldn't have been anywhere close to being in that game if he wasn't playing as well as he was in the first half.
Correct. And, I texted you during the game, like, I didn't think JQ played that well, but still, I mean, if he's healthy, like, as many minutes as he can play on that knee, I'm taking it. Like, the guy's a superstar. He's the kind of player that I think, could have a game where he plays pretty poorly for 25 minutes, and then his last 5, he flips a switch and makes some plays down the stretch that helps you win a basketball game, because that's what really good players and athletes do. So, I mean, back to Pope, like, I don't get it, because the analytics cannot show you that this is the right thing to do. Just like last year, when he would make the mass subs at, at the 16-minute mark, like, there couldn't have been analytics that tell you that taking 4 of your best players out of the game and putting in 4 bench players at one time was the right decision. But we did it throughout the year. So I don't know. I would like to actually have Pope, like, show us some of these analytics, because other than him just saying certain guys are analytically better here and there, like, I don't see it, because it's anybody with eyes can watch it and see that Denzel and Colin are giving you nothing. And real quick, I know we talked about it a lot last year. We've talked about it at nauseum this year. The on-ball screen defense is still pathetic. Like, I was watching it with I was watching it with my dad, and it was back-to-back possessions. So Alabama comes down, Chandler goes under a screen, bang, 3. We come down, set an on-ball screen. Both Bama defenders tack the ball. Owe has to pull it back out and, like, set it up. He doesn't have a passing lane, obviously can't get a shot. Why can we not do that? Every team does it to us perfectly. Like, I understand maybe every once in a while you give up, like, if that guard's able to make that pass, you can give up, a free lane to the basket. But I can tell you what doesn't work. And that's going under screens against teams that guards shoot 44% from behind the arc, because that is just, it's automatic. And we did it time and time again. And I don't understand in what world, like, that's our best on ball, screen defense. You either switch it or you whatever they call it, attack it with both guys, but you can't continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned that. And a place where I think they're really bad at that is those two guards that we're playing a lot of time. I mean, I'm looking at these defensive analytics, a lot of these analytics that Coach Pope is looking at. The stop rate. Denzel Aberdeen is at 10.6 stop rate. It's horrendous. Colin Chandler is at a 47.6, a little bit better, but still not good. And then just looking at some of these other net points, your points produced and your points allowed. Jake, we only had two guys in the positives in this game. Obviously, go ahead and name them for us.
I'm going to guess it's Owe and Lowe.
You got it right on the – it's crazy.
Ding, ding, ding.
It's almost like watching this game. You didn't even have to have these advanced analytics to know this. No. And if you had to guess, who was the worst player on the floor in that with a negative 5.5 points?
I'm gonna guess it's Denzel or maybe Colin. I'm gonna say it's one of them.
Denzel Aberdeen, and you want to know who comes in second, Jake?
I'll go back with Colin Chandler.
It is Colin Chandler. So, Jake, the crazy thing is you and I, just from sitting there and watching this game, came away with similar takes as to what all of these advanced analytics are showing. So, to your point, he just has like information overload. At a certain point, like, go back to that guy that played with Rick Pitino. Go back to that. Just, it's basketball. You know what works. You know what's working. Like, you are a smart individual. You can take a game plan and fit it to beat certain teams. You've seen him do it at halftimes of games. You've seen him come out with a completely different mindset. You've seen him lay out different game plans for when Lamont Butler was out, and this is a whole different team. Like, you've seen the ability for him to do that. I think right now he's just going on information overload. He's got too many things that he's looking at. He's trying to satisfy too many people, trying to fulfill too many promises maybe that he made in the offseason to families and parents. And a lot of that turns into what you're seeing now is a bunch of people playing, not playing together, not playing hard, and obviously not getting to that end result of winning games.
Two things. One, it's crazy because like everything we're talking about with Pope makes me kind of sound like a guy that like doesn't trust analytics or like, some old school basketball head. Like, I'm the opposite. Like, analytics, I think, are a huge part of the sports in general, whether it's football, baseball, there was everything. Like, numbers do not lie, right? But like, what's crazy is Pope makes these analytic arguments, but then when to your point that you just brought up, when you look at the analytics, they don't back up what he's telling you, right? Like, the analytics are telling you that Denzel Aberdeen and Colin Chandler are your worst players on the floor. So don't tell us that, there's analytics out there that are telling us different, because there's not. Like, analytics are a really big part of basketball, I think. And Nate Oates is a very analytically driven coach, right? You don't see him running through 11 different lineups throughout a game trying to figure out what clicks. Like, he knows analytically these are my best guys, and it works pretty damn well for him, and he knows what he wants to do, and that's shoot a lot of threes and create mismatches and do all this stuff. And like, we're like using, it feels like, the worst parts of the analytics. And then and then just real quick, unrelated, like going back to your point of like recruiting or whatever and the promises that were made, like, you don't think it's going to be a lot harder? We're already struggling to get top recruits. We haven't really landed one outside of, JQ, who was a transfer who wanted to come here potentially even before, and, guys from Kentucky. JQ is going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. You don't think that it's going to hurt him and other recruits when they're seeing that his dad is on Twitter venting about the coach and like all the issues that this team's had and everything else? Like, that's not going to be a positive, and that's an area that you're already struggling in, and now you got to try to like overcome that. Like, if there's one guy whose family I want to keep pretty happy right now, it's probably JQ, because these top recruits, they know, like, they want to be the guy that's going top 10 in the draft. And if you have one guy that's going to do it and he's sitting there his family's openly criticizing the coach on Twitter, like, I don't think that that's going to be a very good look.
It's not. I don't even. It's really. I mean, you look at it and like that's the biggest fish that he's landed. This is a guy that you knew just as soon as he was going healthy, all he had to do was not re-injure anything, and he was going to be at the minimum a lottery pick. And obviously, to not keep somebody like that happy, who obviously has wanted to go to UK for some time. Obviously, last year Arizona State, kind of backed up the Brinks truck to get him to go to campus there. They backed up the Brinks truck for Cutter Boley as well. Which I don't know if you're seeing the latest reports. They're bringing in quarterback competition out there in the Sun Valley. I don't know how Cutter's going to feel about that, man. But
he's got his money.
I don't want to get sidetracked on that. I just thought I'd bring that up. But I kind of wanted to put a little bit more stock into what we just said with the stop percentage. Stop percentage estimates the rate of defensive possessions where the opposing team did not score. Your starting shooting guard, who was on the floor for 27 minutes, had a stop percentage of 10.6%.
That's insane.
10% of the time we got a stop while Denzel Aberdeen was on the floor. 10% of the time. And the thing is like I sat there and watched that game, and I'm thinking, man, I feel like Collins giving up a lot of open looks too.
Yeah.
Even his stop percentage was 47%. Like this is something you're talking about. This is like it's criminally bad. And it's to the point where like you have to look at this just as a staff and you say, dude, we have to do something. Because you look outside of that, Jalen Lowe, 52.9%. Okay, not too bad. Jaden Quaintance, 71.4%. And that's a game where, you and I both talked during the game. That did not feel like a great JQ game. And he's still your best defender by a mile. We're going to keep talking about it till we're blue in the face. Denzel Aberdeen at this moment in time has no role on this team, or he should have no role on this team. Let me rephrase it, because obviously he does. He just played 27 minutes. Until that gets changed, I don't see this team turning any corner anytime soon.
Yeah, I would argue you can't play anybody with the 10% stop percentage, right? But if you do, man, you better be an elite scorer, like elite, like to the point where you are so good where you're going to constantly trade twos for threes, right? Like, I don't 10%. You can't even play Jalen Lowe, I don't think, at that rate, and he's by far your best offense right now.
Yeah, he was 52.9. So.
Yeah. And almost like when you play in a team like Alabama, you take 50%. Like, I know that sounds kind of crazy because teams want to average like a point per possession typically, but like 10% is it's mind-boggling. And then you see 1 of 7 on the offensive side taking shots, pulling threes the second you run down the court, and never giving it a chance. Like there is no role. There's nothing he brings to you that you feel like is a positive. I mean, at least like even Chandler a couple times got to the rim. I mean, it wasn't a lot. I'll admit I'm grasping here to find like a small positive in Colin Chandler, but like at least there were like little glimpses. And at least with Colin, like if he can get comfortable and get some of that confidence back and stop looking so scared, like there's the potential to be a solid player. But right now, like I really don't know what Denzel gives you and what he's going to bring to this team going forward. Do you not think like Jasper Johnston could give you a 10% stop rate? Honest question. I mean, and like, who would you rather have offensively?
In all fairness, in this game, he did have a 0 stop rate, but then again, he played 6 minutes.
Yeah, so. Exactly. But like that's my point. If you played, Jasper 27 minutes, I bet he has a higher than 10% stop rate, and if he doesn't, I bet he knocks down a couple threes. So still, I'm not using that as like a Jasper should be playing a ton, but I just think when you're 27 minutes of action and you're at a 10% stop rate, you better be the best scorer in college basketball.
Yeah, and the thing, and I get, probably 10 of these minutes of this podcast is going to be just us trashing Denzel Aberdeen. But when you're the worst defender on the floor for the team, your offensive rating is the second worst on the team, and your assist rate is the second worst on the team, I don't know how you're playing the second most minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't, nothing about it adds up. And you would think, like, even all that, you're like, oh, well, senior, he's a leader, he was on that national championship team. He's not giving you that either.
Yeah,
Like,
he's arguing with his teammates.
I don't know what it is. And I told you I was going to make this joke on air, so it's not even really a joke because I genuinely believe it. Obviously, him and Clara Strack are dating at the moment, or at least that's the rumor mill. As Jake would say, people are talking.
People are talking.
In a game of 21, Clara Strack versus Denzel Aberdeen, I will spot Denzel 19 points, and I guarantee Clara still wins by 2. Like that's just how it is. You're talking about an almost Player of the Year nominee versus a guy who got overpaid. And honestly, I'm kind of looking at this now as like, why was Todd Golden so upset to lose him? I genuinely don't understand. Like, what?
Yeah.
What was he looking at that he was so furious the entire offseason that he's missing this guy?
Yeah, and you don't know. Like, we weren't around Florida on the day-to-day. Like, he could have been the perfect teammate and, like, everything could have been great, and then just a switch flipped when he got to Lexington and got his money, and, now he's this. You mentioned, like, we're going to spend 10-plus minutes, trashing him. Like, that's in part, though, like, because of Pope, right? Like, one, you prioritize paying this guy a lot of money, but two, like, you leave him in the games for 27 minutes. I mean, if he's not good and he's playing 8 minutes, we're not really talking about him.
Yeah.
So, like, you bring this upon yourself. And, I used to say the same thing back with Cal, and it was, I felt like people were constantly ragging on, DJ Wagner and Justin Edwards. It wasn't their fault that they were left on the floor to play over Reed and Rob. Like, that was the coach's fault. Like, if Pope would just make that adjustment, we're not sitting here crushing the guy. But again, I mean, it's NIL era. These guys are all paid. This is part of what you get when you come to Kentucky. If you're not going to perform, hey, you get to cash your check. But, Cats Talk Podcast is going to spend 15 minutes, venting and complaining about the fact that you're playing 27 minutes. So, unfortunately, it's
guard on the bench that you want to see something from too. And I get he hasn't been everything that he's been built to be as of late, but a lot of that is because the opportunity hasn't been there either. Like, he passed up some open threes in this Alabama game that I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, I don't know who else I want taking these more than you right now. Like, outside of Cam Williams, it's probably Jasper at this moment, because right now Colin's scared of his own shadow. Ortega's still not knocking down shots. Jalen's starting to knock down some threes. It's just like you've got to instill confidence. I believe this is me personally. Like, I think you instill confidence in Jasper Johnston this week by giving him some extended run against Missouri here on Wednesday. Because if not, dude, it's just going to keep growing louder and louder.
Yeah.
Jasper's family is going to continue to grow louder. JQ's family is going to continue to grow louder. This is just game 1 of the SEC slate. Like, if it keeps continuing down this path, it's going to get so much worse. And then you're looking at it, you mentioned it earlier, recruiting. If you have the entire family, like, going, like, ballistic at the coaching staff, like, we can't do anything right, and you only get to play 15 to 20 minutes a game, why would you come to Kentucky?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, and it's your 2 highest rated recruits. Like, again, I know JQ wasn't technically a recruit, but I mean, he was a guy that could have went anywhere in the country last year and was, if it wasn't for the ACL, he would have been the number 1 player in the portal. And you're still like, he's only coming back to college because he wasn't old enough to go to the NBA draft. If he was old enough, this would have never been a thing. So you were almost like kind of gifted with this opportunity to recruit him. And the other is your 5-star guard. Like, it's not good. And right now it's all on Pope, and it's crazy. I know we talk constantly about how we're, swinging one way or another. We're, after St. John's, we were talking about how, like, this team could be a team that goes on a potential run and, like, possibly 14-4 in the SEC. And
but
then
why was that? Why was that?
Because we saw, you're right. We saw a lineup that weren't, and then we saw that same lineup play 1 minute. And I think that's the most troubling thing, because there is a world where, like, we've said it 100 times. Like, I don't know if you play your best 5 guys, like, how great this team can be. Like, I don't think they can be a Final Four contending team, even playing the lineups that we're talking about you have to play. But I can tell you that they're not going to be as bad as we've seen in, these Michigan State, North Carolina, so on and so forth, games that we've, constantly complained about. I mean, you're nowhere near in a good spot to make the tournament. You're 9-5 right now. You just lost to Bama on the road. Like, your best quality win is St. John's, and they continue to lose in the Big East now. And it's St. John's is looking like a potential bubble team. Indiana's looking like a potential bubble team. And, like, those are your 2 best wins, and neither one of them were on the road. So, I mean, I told you, like, you asked me what I thought the floor in the SEC was. I think I said 8-10 at the time. Like, that's very much on the table right now. And, again, Alabama wasn't a game we thought we would win, but I expected not such an embarrassing performance, back to how we talked at the beginning. Like, I still, I thought you'd probably lose, but I thought it would go a lot like how you predicted, honestly. Like, I thought we'd probably be down 8-10 for most of the game, have a couple runs where we get it to 5, and you're like, maybe if we hit a shot, we can kind of get over the hump here. But I didn't to just come out and completely get run off the floor again, outside of one little 10-minute spurt in the second half. It's just, it's unacceptable. And you couldn't even take advantage of the fact that Alabama pretty much didn't play their 2 big men. You asked me to paint the picture.
Foul at halftime, and he had 2 points.
You got that.
That much at half.
You got that. You got, their one big picks up early fouls. The other one's hurt. Like, they're barely playing.
Bucknell from last year, who didn't do anything against us then, too. Like
you told me,
he looked like he was a 4 or 5-star recruit that they had just been stashing for years. Dude, there's so many things about this game that
he's
just
grabbing offensive rebounds on free throws over JQ and like kicking it out.
Like, he looks like he's a better athlete than Jaden
kicking them out to wide open threes.
Dude, there's so many things about this game that just upset me, and it's more the fact that at no point during this game, even when they were up 5-0, was I like, I feel good about this. At no point during this game did I think there was a comeback in store. There was this, because they're not going to string together enough stops, and especially with how bad they are on the offensive end, they're not going to put enough drives together to keep going back and forth, and that's with great games from Ortega and Jalen. Like, you can't. I don't think you could have asked those 2 to play much better, giving you 22 and 21.
I agree,
and you still got ran off the floor by Alabama. And I get it's not our best matchup, but, like, isn't this what Pope went to, like, this year's transfer portal to try and fix, to not get run off the floor against Alabama?
Yep.
And the lineup that you put together to potentially stop this is a lineup you played together for a minute. And back to your point about the St. John's game and why we thought, they could ride some momentum into that, a lot of it was because you had this fan base re-energized. You had just beaten your old coach. It was a big win. Jaden Quaintance was back. You're riding the highs of all this. You see a lineup that can work together. Cam Williams hits some threes. Jalen Lowe obviously shows you his dynamism, getting around the paint and in the paint, and his ability to kick to Jaden Quaintance. You saw Quaintance's ability to offensive rebound and put back. You saw the Ortega Owe from last year, who's making tough finishes, getting steals, getting out on the break. Like, you saw all of this. You saw the physicality from Mo Diabate. He gets ejected in that game. Shows a little bit of, just raw enthusiasm that this team lacks. You saw all of that in one half of basketball. And obviously our brains are thinking, okay, this is what we were told all year. Like, this is a team that we were supposed to be looking at. And then what do you do against Bellarmine? You don't play Jalen Lowe at all. Again, not saying I disagree with that at all, but at some point you do want to get camaraderie with this team, because this isn't a built for March team at this moment. Like, you have to get to March. You got to scrap and claw to get to March. You barely let Jaden Quaintance play. He doesn't have his legs under him. Then he has another 10 days off, and you can tell he doesn't look right in that game. You got Williamson grabbing rebounds over him. That guy, I could slide a credit card under him. I'm not sure if he's getting over it. And yet he does that. That's why we were so excited, was because of that potential that you saw in that St. John's game. And to have not necessarily like that lineup underperform just to not get that chance to see that lineup against a team who it was made for. Like, this was the game that you looked at it like when you scouted and you're like, this is the lineup that should work the best.
Yeah.
And you never gave it a chance.
You never gave it a chance, and I think, that's what's as frustrating. I feel like we keep finding these other ways to say, like, this is what makes it so frustrating. Early in the year, we talked about
So
effort.
many different reasons.
Yeah. Now we're talking about, like, lineups. Like, again, if you played your best 7 guys and you said, hands down, these are our best 7 guys, yeah, people would probably nitpick of who you brought off the bench at certain times and this and that. But, like, I'm not going to say it's acceptable, for us not to be good because, like, this is Kentucky. But, you can just say, like, okay, this roster probably wasn't constructed the best, and we're just not good enough. We're a, second-round exit tournament team. Like, we're a top 30 team in the country. That's what we are. This team is just not good enough. But you're not playing your best guys. You're not giving your lineup the chance that, to have that opportunity to even see where we are. Are we, a bottom 20 team? Or are we potentially, with those 5 guys, a top 15 team? Like, where do we rank? I don't know. We saw them for pretty much one half, and they looked really, really good in that half. And we haven't seen that lineup together again. And it just doesn't make sense. And back to analytics, another analytic, and I'm sure there's analytics out there that speak to this. Imagine how much better Otega Oweh looks in that lineup. He's your best player. Cater it to him. Help him. We saw, like, you can see how much better he looks when he's not playing with just Colin Chandler and Denzel Aberdeen. He's got guys that can space the floor. He's got Jalen Lowe that can speed up another point guard that can sometimes lead to them making a bad pass that leads to Otega getting into a passing lane and a run-out dunk. Like, back to analytics, I just think all these guys probably, their analytics have to speak that they play better within that lineup.
Yeah, and dude, it's so maddening. A lot of it is, really. It's kind of the only way I get to phrase it, because, like, I'm coming off of just going to watch the women's team play Missouri, and I listened to Kenny Brooks' ideology on the game, and this guy doesn't play more than 7 players, and he'll tell you exactly why. And he has reasons for every single thing that he does. Right now, like, if we had Coach Pope just slotted in here to join us right now, he'd just dance around the question and not have a real answer.
It was brutal.
That's a part of what makes me so frustrated, is that he has no conviction in anything that he's doing right now. And be the head coach of the University of Kentucky and to not have conviction in anything you're doing is not a good – it's just not a good look. Like, even Calipari, even if his convictions were wrong, you weren't swaying him off of it, and he was fully confident in them. Now, granted, is that probably the reason he went 5 straight years with only 1 tournament win? Probably. But I don't even know. And all of this said, we're a 12.5-point favorite against Missouri on Wednesday, who just beat a ranked Florida team. So, like, I don't know what Vegas is seeing, but they're obviously seeing – maybe they're seeing that lineup's going to play more than a minute, Jake. Maybe they've got it from Pope that he's playing more than a minute.
Yeah. I don't know. And, like, the thing is, like, this is never anything I thought we would be dealing with Pope, right? Like, I didn't think when it comes to the lineups, I feel like we're talking exactly how we talked about Cal. I mean, there were back to Cal's last year, we all said, like, your most efficient lineups analytically were, Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham, and Reed Shepherd, the 3 of them on the floor together, and they played very few minutes together. And we all talked about, like, and, even like Justin Edwards at the 4, like, analytically, that lineup was so good offensively, and it played very, very, very little minutes together. And, like, that's what I feel like we're talking about here. Like, with those 5 playing 1 minute together, it's mind-boggling. Like, you could maybe say, like, okay, they only played 1 minute together, and that was because, Mo Diabate was in foul trouble, or JQ was in foul trouble for the whole game, and you could never work them in together. But, like, none of those guys were in foul trouble. You could have played all 5 of those guys 20-plus minutes. And, again, if we played all those guys 20-plus minutes together and we came out and still lost by 15, I would just sit here and say that this team is just not good. But, like, the frustrating part is, like, we still don't really know. because
I'm not
again,
giving it a chance.
we've seen it for one half, and it was the best half of basketball we have played all season. So I don't know how you can sit there and watch that lineup for one half, play the best 15-minute stretch you've seen this team play all season, and then say, I'm not going to give it another chance. After the guy that you didn't really incorporate in the lineup, Cam Williams, comes out the next game and hits 8 threes on 10 shots. Like, it's mind-boggling. And, like, I'll say it again, like, this is a game built for Cam Williams. He can stretch the floor, he can hit threes, he's pretty much everything you need for Alabama, and then he's able to switch everything out on the perimeter on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not going to act like he's the greatest defender in the world, but you know what? I can tell you he's probably not going to have a 10% stop rate like another guard that we saw.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of this, and I know a lot of coaches will say, I don't care who starts, it's about who finishes. And to like a certain extent, I agree with it. It's also hard to get the entire lineup on the floor that you want to play a lot when you don't start them all together.
I agree.
It's hard to do that when you have Jalen, Cam, and JQ coming off the bench. It's hard to get all 5 of those guys in together when you're doing stuff like that. And I'm not asking for all 5 of those guys to run on the floor together for 35 minutes of the game. Like, obviously, you're going to have rotations, but is it too much to ask for that lineup to be in there for 15, 20 minutes of this game? Like, I don't think that's a lot to ask for, and just rotate with guys you think. Malachi Moreno, I think, is still playing at a pretty high level. He's obviously got struggles defensively, but this is a game in which that was going to test him to the max. Jake, 100% of possessions that Malachi Moreno was in, we scored. There was not a possession we did not score that Malachi Moreno was on the floor.
See him, you could take a 10% stop rate because you're scoring 100% of the time. So 190, 100's more.
Yeah. And it's just like there's certain I don't get it. Like maybe during this week when I have some free time, I'll look through these advanced analytics of the entire season and try and put it all into like one big spreadsheet so we can see if maybe all those games against St. Mary's School of the Blind and Hopeless early in the season are really bumping up Denzel's numbers, because that's probably what it is. And I think that's why Colin and Denzel are still playing a fair amount. Yeah. And it's like at some point we do have to throw those numbers out. Like, we knew the competition level we were playing. This is different. Yeah. It just is.
But back to the other coach, like that we say loves analytics, like Nate Oates was acknowledging, came out flat out and said, like, Kentucky's not a very good passing team.
He basically his nose and called him a clown.
like okay, yeah, they have games where they have a lot of assists, but when you look at what they do in the big games, it's nothing. And then he talks about that he only found 7 times where Kentucky threw the ball into the post and created an assist from a big man in the post. I mean, there were games last year where Amari had 7 of those by himself. But like, again, that's a coach using analytics, I will say, properly. Like, that's something you can look at in advanced analytics of what are they doing versus major competition. What are they doing against the teams ranked 330 in the net that we played constantly over and over again? Okay, I'm going to look at this sample size and I'm going to figure out how we attack it and defend it. And I mean, he's absolutely right. Like, this team plays a very selfish style of basketball, and
the ball is very sticky with this team.
And in part, like, that's because of Oweh, and I don't think Oweh's a selfish player. I just think that's Oweh's game. His best game is to put his head down and try to get to the rim. We've talked about it.
We said we need him to be like your 3rd or 4th best player. Yeah, that's why that team last year succeeded.
But then, like, you can't have that and then also have Denzel Aberdeen, who doesn't create any offense. He can't get to the rim efficiently. He'll try to shoot a lot, and like, you can't have all that kind of working together. And I think that's why you see how much of an upgrade it is when Jalen Lowe is running the point. But yeah, I don't know. We're just back to where we started, I feel like, of just talking about it. But I do want to say, like, Nate Oates, I think, is a very analytically based coach, and I think he finds a way to, again, play his best players, figure out what's working for them, and uses the analytics as, the right way. And I don't feel like our coach is necessarily doing that, unfortunately.
And what drives me crazy about that 7 assist stat coming out of the post is that we saw how effectively that worked in Pope's system last year.
Yeah.
Like when you have a guy that can do that. We don't even run that. Like I
No.
don't even know if like there is no sets that we run that allows you to do anything like that right now.
I told you when Lowe
Lowe's-
was hurt,
hey,
and
like,
I still
what
believe it. Run
like I
that with
think
Malachi. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like run that with Malachi. We've seen him be able to do it.
The thing is, I don't even know if it's that these bigs can't pass. Like I think you see times where Brandon Garrison can make flashy passes. I think you see times where Malachi, he's obviously our best passing big at this moment. And then Diabate, you have to play him like a big. You can't play him like a shooting guard or even a small forward. You have to play him as a big. And I think that's something that he's going to thrive in if we allow him to play that. I thought personally that's why we brought him in, to kind of be that like smaller Amari Williams role. And we haven't given him that chance to do anything like that. And I think so many guys are playing so out of position and so just like outside of what they're good at. And I think I don't want to put 100% on the coaching staff because obviously these guys still got to go out there and play. And that Gonzaga game, I mean, you could have had Adolph Rupp coaching and nobody would have gotten to that team. But man, it's hard to get past just how bad this coaching has been through 14 games.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. I mean, Pope's a guy that I've been very vocal positively about. I mean, really throughout. And I'm not saying I'm ready to fire him, but like this is, I think, a failure on all systems. And dude, it's crazy because it was, just last week you asked me to grade him, and I, gave a C- because I said I felt like he made the adjustment there in the St. John's game for the one half that he had like his full lineup, but then you just completely revert it back. That's the other thing. You didn't have a single player injured coming into this one. Like if this isn't going to be the game where you're going to play your best players, then it's probably just not going to happen. And so, I mean, I would love to take that C- back because it is. I'm so disappointed. I mean, I think every aspect of this team has just been a failure by the coaching staff, from roster construction at the beginning of, through the off season, the minute distributions through the season, the defensive philosophy at times throughout the season. Like, I think it's all just a major, major failure.
Yeah, and I obviously couldn't agree with you more. But Jake, let's go ahead and turn the page. Let's talk about these next upcoming games that they have, because 4 of these next 5 games that they have, Jake, I think they're probably going to be favored in. And I say minimum in these next 5, you're going to have to go 4-5 if you want to be a tournament team.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, that starts with Missouri. They're a 12.5-point favorite. You have them at home. Granted, Missouri's coming off their best win of the season. They obviously just took down Florida, but before then, I mean, they had some pretty bad losses in there as well. Any team that they played that was somewhat solid, I mean, they lost to Illinois 91-48. Obviously, they lost to Kansas by 20. They lost to Notre Dame by 5. So until that Florida game, anytime they had played anyone of any sort of relevance, they had really been killed. Jake, lay it on me, man. I'm throwing it to you first. I picked first last week, and we didn't go too well. So you picked this week. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, real quick, you mentioned like 4 of the next 5. I agree completely. You got to take care of business at home. We've talked about it obviously before the Bama game. Yeah.
Easy.
Well, I just think like you play your best 2 teams you play at home are probably Tennessee and Florida. Like maybe you drop one of them, but you better win every other home game and steal a couple on the road. I don't feel confident at all. I'm going to pick Kentucky to win just because that's in part just me not wanting to think about what our, podcast on Thursdays is going to look like if we lose. I mean, I'll say we squeak by. I'll go 77-73.
Yeah, and this Missouri team is not a good defensive team either. They've had a good amount of points put up on the board against them, so not a great offensive team either. there's not much that Missouri does all that well. And I got a feeling Vegas has got to do something if this line's at 12.5. I mean, there's something that's got to be known. I'm going to take the Cats begrudgingly, almost. A lot of because what you just said. I don't want to be talking to you on Thursday. With all due respect, if this team
We
loses.
might just shut it down and wait till football season.
It might just be load management season. We'll just talk transfer portal or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, I think this team will get into the 80s in this game. I think it'll probably be like 82-74 Cats. They don't quite cover the spread, but they do get a win. And really, it's a game they should win, so I don't think I'm going to feel any more confident about the game if they win this. It's almost to the same aspect of how we talked about the Bellarmine game. Like, I'm not going to feel any more confident if they win this game. But if they lose, it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point this year. I don't care how you win, just win. Like all these games. Like you could tell me they win. You could tell me they win the next two by a combined 2 points, and I'll sign on the line right now. Like
personally, I just want to see those 5 on the floor together, and I want to see Jasper get a little bit of run. I want to see Malachi get a little bit more run too, and I want to see Denzel and Colin not playing 45 minutes combined. I think that's something that's got to change, and those are the storylines that I'm looking for going into this Missouri game. Jake, you obviously mentioned we have to take 4 of the next 5. Is there any other big picture things that you are looking forward to seeing in this Missouri game that we were going to talk about on Thursday?
No, I mean, unless, like you said, that lineup comes out and plays 20 minutes plus, you start Jalen Lowe and, you give the guys the run that it deserves. And the thing, like, I don't ever see this getting to a point where, like, Colin Chandler and Denzel Aberdeen aren't on the floor together. But, like, we've talked about they might both be unplayable. You definitely can't play the two of them together. So, I mean, if Pope comes out and does that and we don't see one combined minute of Colin Chandler and Denzel together on the floor, then maybe I'll look a little more positive on the rest of the season. I just don't foresee that happening.
Well, on that positive note, Jake, I'm going to just sit here and talk about reasons why you should check into the Cats Talk podcast anyways, because transfer portal, Jake, I've been sending you some updates at 4 a.m. I don't know if Miss Kate has been happy about you getting those updates about 4 a.m.
We're on Do Not Disturb, buddy. I'm out.
We've got all your information on the transfer portal. The Kentucky women's team, Jake, number 5 versus number 6 at Memorial Coliseum this Sunday, Oklahoma versus the Cats. We've obviously got you covered there as well. Anything Kentucky athletics, you'll find it here on the Cats Talk podcast. So follow us on Instagram, on X, on TikTok. We're anywhere and everywhere you get your social media content, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're anywhere and everywhere, Jake. With all that being said, Cats need a win big time. Because if not, man, the sky's falling in Lexington. But until then, Big Blue Nation, go Cats.